had a stepdad in the situation, but he was a good provider, but that's about it. He left his childhood started at age 14. I'm sorry, his adulthood started at age 14, so he really didn't have a childhood either, and to show me. My mother, very firm, very strict. She was the head of the household, and the things she did, obviously, it weren't the ways that we teach or bring our children up nowadays, but I believe that it taught me to be, strict, firm, and the way I am now. Obviously, I don't do the same things, and we've learned together, my mom and I, that it can be changed. You don't have to abuse. You don't have to embarrass. You don't have to put a thumb on your children.
The way that we're going to go with it. And I saw a lot of head nodding. Anyone have some similar experiences? What was your name? I'm sorry.
They call me Mr. T.
Mr. T. Anyone have some similar experiences with Mr. T?
Well, his was a different culture, but in our neighborhood, it was the same. When you were growing up, there was so much more respect than what we see today. And if your neighbor did see you doing something wrong, they were free to say something to you without worrying that your parents might come to them later and tell them, you have no business talking to my child, which is what you might experience today. So, as children back then, as I was saying, I wasn't a discipline problem, but had I been, I knew that my parents were not the only eyes on me. It was everyone. And I think that's a wonderful way that we grew up.
Saying, if you did something wrong in your neighborhood, I grew up in the projects in New York, and if you did something wrong, they ran and they told your mom, and they didn't have to worry about, being flipped off or being cursed at or whatever, because they went and they told, and then your parents would say something to you, so you knew you were going to get double,
How many of you had that same experience, the kind of your neighborhood, your neighbors, everyone kind of had contributed to your guidance? A lot, and I think that makes a difference. They say the village is a child, and
It wasn't something special or different. We didn't feel special or different because we had a good life. It was just the way things were. And although integration was a good thing as far as bringing about privileges, it actually broke up our homes. It changed our mindset. It changed our children. So much has changed because of integration. And I'm not saying integration is a bad thing. It's not, but it changed the way parents parented. It changed, not my generation of parents, but even me as a parent. I tried to be different, and I don't know why. I think in a way I was too peaceful with my children. If I yelled, my children thought that was funny because that wasn't me. So it's just odd. It's very odd. And so many people, maybe in this room, the younger people, they don't, you see all these negative things about black families, and it hurts me when I see that on the news. It really hurts me because you never hear about the good stuff, because there's still a lot of good families. We have a good church family. They really care, and they do. It's so evident that they care, and a lot of that's missing in so many of our homes nowadays.
It is, and it's, you were talking about the culture, and that's really what's happened is our culture really has changed a lot. It used to be not too long ago, really not too long ago, that you had the extended family that lived together. If you didn't live together, at least you lived in the same neighborhood. And now people, grandmas and grandpas live in each side of the country, and everything's kind of split. It's scattered. It is scattered. And so that support system is not always there. And I think that makes a difference in the way that we guide and discipline. Because I'll tell you what, there are quick and easy things we can do to get quick fixes. The real change comes from like long term. It takes an investment. You have to invest in a child or a group of children for a long time to get the kind of change that you want, which is that lifelong change. And that's where we'll talk a little later too about breaking it down into a skill that a child doesn't have. And it's not saying that I'm not a parent basher, because I think everybody, every single parent wants to be the best parent that they can be. They either maybe didn't have the right role models, they don't have enough support. I was a single mom for a lot of years, and my son's father was there. He was in the picture. I'm not saying I was all on my own, but just having day after day after day of being the sole disciplinarian was difficult. And so I will admit right now, I went for the quick fixes. As a 2-year-old teacher, some days I went for the quick fixes. Because the bottom line is, you can get a 2-year-old to do anything for a piece of candy. Anything. And so some days, that's what I did to make it through the day. But if that's all I ever did, like you were saying, that sticker, that candy, that whatever, the prize has to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then what motivates the child's behavior, what motivates the behavior is that what's in it for me. And I think you guys all know adults who you can kind of go, yeah, that's what motivates every single thing that they do, that what's in it for me. And we're never going to get back to that culture that you guys talked about, that village kind of culture, as long as we're all individuals and that what's in it for me kind of attitude. And I think that my husband used to have this T-shirt back in the 80s, and it said, "Think globally, act locally." So we want to change the world. The way we change the world is that one child at a time. Because you never know who that child's going to grow up to be and how many people that child is going to affect because of the things that you did. I hope that that's a positive thing, but I think we always need to remember that that can be a negative thing. Who has a situation that they thought of? Yes.
I was telling the women back here about a situation when I was growing up with my dad. Like, I had let them know that my mom was a disciplinary. My dad was like in and out of the house. So it was like 3 girls and 1 boy when I was growing up. I had 3 other siblings. So my dad, one day he comes home and his cigarettes were missing. So he had thought that we had took them. So he asked us over and over again if we had the cigarettes. So we all said we didn't have them. So we all got like beat with the belt, really bad whooping. Like to this day I still remember it. I'm 32 years old, remember that whooping. So then he found them. So he took us to the gas station and bought all of a Snickers bar. And like I explained to the women back here that I felt as though, like, for a situation like that, we deserved an apology. And we got a Snickers bar. And that's why I told them, I think that with my children, like, I am not too big to apologize. Amen. If I know I'm wrong, I will apologize for it, because you don't know how good that makes a child feel when you can lower yourself and apologize. As teachers and as parents, we don't understand that we expect for a child to be humble and have humility and apologize, but we want them to take on these big adult attributes, and we don't want to lower ourselves and apologize. So to this day, like, I am not too big. Like, even in the classroom, I will apologize if I'm wrong, if I accuse you wrongly, even with my children. If I think they did something wrong and I find out that I was wrong, I will apologize. So that's just something that I took with me from that whole situation. So.
That's a beautiful story. I'll tell you, and there's nothing more powerful than to apologize to a child. And I'll tell you the really wonderful thing about it is they forgive you right away. We're modeling, right? We're modeling that we're not perfect. As adults, we're not perfect. As parents, we're So we can't model perfection, but what we can model is what happens. It's just like when I'm angry, I grew up thinking like that there was something wrong with being angry. And it took me a long time to realize that angry is a normal feeling. It's what I do with my anger. I kind of say it jokingly, but it's true. I wonder how many 2-year-olds I confuse, because I can never tell them, I'm really upset right now. That made me angry when you did that. What I always told them was sad. That makes me really sad. You made me sad. I'm very sad. I wasn't sad. I was mad. is what it was. What I know now, that comes back. That it goes back to the guilt thing. That because that was how my mother disciplined, was the guilt thing. So I subconsciously thought if I could make these children understand how sad they were making me, that they would change the behavior. And that's that extrinsic motivation. I do things for outside reasons. And it's not that we shouldn't care about other people and other people's feelings, but that motivation that we want children to have for behavior has to be inside, because we're not always there with them. So whatever we give them, whatever we encourage, has to be inside of them so that they can take it everywhere with them for the rest of their lives. Does anyone have another story? Yes?
I was thinking I didn't have a story, and somehow when she was speaking, it reminded me of where I did something wrong. My granddaughter, my son's daughter, is in a blended family, and I had read many, many years ago about treating them all the same, and in my heart was open to her siblings. And she has a sister who's 2.5 years older than she is, and I would keep all the children at the time. There were 3 of them. And the sister, I never understood how she related to the other kids, because she was the oldest, and I guess she never had a chance to actually be the baby, because the kids were like little stair steps, like a year apart and whatever. And she was always the one getting into trouble. She would, like, if she wanted something and they were in the way, she'd just step on them and walk on by. It's like I never understood that. Or she would fight them and whatever. So she was always the one in trouble. I love these children. I love her dearly. But at the time, in my mind, I had labeled her the little troublemaker. So I was always watching out to make sure that she wasn't causing any harm. Well, one day something happened. For the life of me, I can't remember what it was. I just knew she had done it. I just knew she had done it. And I spanked her. Not a heavy spanking, because I'm not into that. But I spanked her. And then I found out she hadn't done it. She was too young to understand an apology. But I vowed to myself then I would never, ever, ever put my hands on any of them, because I did not want to make that mistake, and I didn't want them to think that this is the way Grandma is. That's one problem. I'm so proud of her.
That is wonderful. And sometimes it takes us, those real strong things that happen to us. That's what creates that change. And so I used to look back on mistakes and things as something I didn't want to think about or acknowledge, but now I understand that that's where I learned my biggest lesson.